Us, everybody. Welcome to Tech Week. It is the first ever Tech Week. My name's Tim Phillips, and I am going to be the moderator for this first session of the first Tech Week ever. You will be hearing a little bit from me, but mostly today you'll be hearing from Jeff Barnes, who's with me. Welcome, Jeff.
Hi, Tim. Hi everyone.
Well, I'm saying welcome, but this is actually, I'm in in house today.
Welcome to QA, yes.
Yes, exactly. So I'm in QA's offices today. Actually, as you can see, it's such a beautiful day. We're outside on the balcony with the skyline of London behind us. Now, Tech Week, let me explain what we're going to do for our first session this morning. We have an hour and a half scheduled. Thank you for joining us for this. What we're going to do is divide this into 3 sessions. In the first session, we'll be talking a little bit about what Tech Week is. For those of you who haven't dealt with QA before, a little bit about what QA does and also why this might have some value for you in developing your career and helping you to be a useful part of the business in which you work. Now we're going to take a couple of short breaks, only very short ones, so don't go away. It's the sort of break that allows you to go and make a cup of tea or something and allows you to put in some questions for us. We'll try and pick those up in the following sessions if we can. In the second session, we'll be talking about some of the challenges that are facing IT professionals today. And Jeff has worked with a lot of you over the years, so he knows the sorts of problems that you face, and he's got some useful things to say about that. And then in the final third of our keynote session today, we'll be talking about the sessions that are coming in the week ahead. So if you are wondering about some of them, you don't know whether or not to turn up for them, my advice is yes, you should do. But if you don't know quite what they're going to be about, Jeff has got all the information on that, and he'll be going through all of it and explaining a little bit about the presenters, which of course is one of the big advantages of QA, is you are talking to the people who really know what they're talking about. So on with the show, I suppose. Welcome to Tech Week, and Jeff, tell us a little bit, first of all, about QA. For people who don't know QA, what is QA and what does it do?
Okay, well, I think that's an easy one to answer. QA is a training company. We are a dedicated training company, unlike software providers or IT service providers who may do a little bit of training as well as the day job, the business as usual. We are a dedicated learning and development business.
You've been doing this a while now.
We've been doing it a long time, yeah. We're about 30 years old as a company. I've been with QA personally for 15 years. And we teach around about 100,000 people a year who come through our doors, either physically or virtually. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we've got a pretty broad customer base and a pretty broad curriculum.
Now, a lot of people will be thinking, okay, I can pick up all this stuff by looking at YouTube videos, for example, but you still do a lot of training in the classroom as well as these sort of online sessions as well. Is there really any alternative to doing training the hard way? Some of your sessions are quite arduous, I think.
I would imagine so, yes. As a trainer, they were arduous, and as a delegate, even
That's
more.
Why you don't do the training anymore.
Even more concentration required, yes. Well, the answer to that is absolutely yes. I mean, there's lots of different ways to complement the training that we do, and I certainly think complement rather than replace is the best method. We have a really strong capability to develop e-learning for our customers. We deliver sessions over virtual environments, as we're doing today. We allow people to connect into our physical classrooms by using virtual technology. So we've got lots of different ways in which we can interact with people, but there's absolutely no doubt that in our industry, face-to-face, instructor-led training is still one of the most valuable ways to get that kind of message across. And for me, the reason for that is the level of interaction you get with the person who's in that room. So, as a delegate attending one of the QA courses, you get access to a genuine subject matter expert who's passionate about the product and passionate about the subject and passionate about teaching that subject. And so what you get is 1 day or 5 days with that subject matter expert, and it's up to you really to take advantage of that. So, the interaction you have with the trainer, the interaction you have with your fellow attendees on the course as well is invaluable. And you can share those experiences, you can share your own experiences, you can ask questions which are relevant for the group. I just love the whole dynamic of face-to-face instructor-led training. So even though we have a fantastic capability to deliver virtual learning, which you'll see this week on Tech Week, we have a fantastic capability to develop bespoke solutions around e-learning. There's no doubt that face-to-face training is still a key part of what we do, and it's because that's what works effectively.
Now, talking of face-to-face, one thing that you'll not see in the next hour and a half is a lot of slides. Now, later on in the week, when you've got some of our instructors, they'll be using the big piece in the middle of the screen to deliver some slides, diagrams, that sort of thing. We don't have that. So if you really want to experience the full face-to-face QA experience with the two of us, then you can make us big. You take the small window and make us big. If you want to keep us small, that's absolutely fine. But it does mean that Sam, who's that looks like a holding slide. It's actually Sam holding up a card. It does mean that she has to keep holding up the card for an hour and a half. So just so you know, just so you're not wondering why aren't the slides moving on, we have none for you so far. Now, Tech Week. Let's get on to that.
Yes.
Why are we doing Tech Week?
Well, I think it's on customer demand is probably the best description for it. We have a fantastic relationship with our customers, whether that be the organisation or the individual. We consider our customers to be the organisations that subscribe to QA for training services, but equally we consider the attendees of the course is also our customers as well, and those two absolutely go hand in hand. There's no point looking at organisational development without looking at the development of the individual, and vice versa. So when we speak to our customers organisationally, they're saying to us, well, where is technology going? You know, how can we react to the fast-changing landscape of IT? Clearly, they can send people on courses and learn skills, but typically those skills get developed once a decision has been made around technology. What they're asking us more and more is, where is technology going? How can we adapt quickly to the changing landscape? And so Tech Week was evolved from customers coming to us and saying, can you help us? Can you talk to us about where technology is moving, whether it be products on one side or industry best practice on another side? And so we've picked a whole lot of topics. We could have picked more, and we'll talk about those later on, but we could have picked a lot of topics really to kind of impart that kind of landscape of IT and how it's fundamentally shifting. We're in a great position as a business to be able to do that, I think. We've got a great interface relationship with both our customers on one side and also the key vendors of software on the other side. So when we work with people like Microsoft and Citrix and VMware and et cetera, they turn to us to help teach people in their new products. So the new releases, we invariably get those out first. We teach people, and we teach hundreds of thousands of people a year across those different technology platforms. At the same time, customers are saying to us, well, where is technology shifting to? Where is it going from? Where is it going to? So we're able to take those two perceptions, those two positions, and put them together and become, I would suggest, that kind of that trusted intermediary between the software vendors on one side, who are great at what they do, the customers who don't want to know where they're going, and then we can help them and guide them, and we won't make any decisions for them, but we'll certainly give them the skills and the knowledge and so on, so they'll be able to make those decisions themselves.
All right, so let's tick off some of the things that these sessions are not.
Okay.
Okay, they're not. First thing is, they're not things that vendors have said, go and teach these things to some people. They're not driven by what the vendors want you to say about their products. They're not infomercials, and that's for sure. No. Yeah, absolutely not. No, you could describe the sessions in two ways. They're either, we do have product-based sessions, so we are teaching some new technology products, but we're also teaching industry best practice, whether that be around things like business intelligence or web development. Again, we can go through the sessions later on in more detail. So they're certainly not being driven by the vendors. What they're actually being driven by is the subject matter experts who are delivering those sessions. We turn to our team internally. We've got a lot of people in QA and a lot of subject matter experts, and we said, what are individuals and organisations asking you about today? Let's turn that around and start talking to people and telling them about that innovation and that landscape change, and let's do it proactively. So it certainly hasn't been driven by anybody apart from QA listening to its customers and starting to open up and turn the message outbound rather than inbound. And they're not just presentations, they're proper sessions where there is information there, and you can comment and you can ask questions. Absolutely. There are skills exchange. One of the things we're very careful to do is we don't want to present a set of questions without delivering any answers. Yeah. That doesn't help anybody. Yeah. A changing landscape means that people need to develop new skills, pick up new experiences, understand new products, understand new solutions. That's what QA is about.
we couldn't start Tech Week without thinking about how to exchange skills and exchange information. So these sessions are about learning how to do something, because that's what we do as a business. We're not setting up infomercials. We're setting up specific learning solutions. Pretty bite-sized, 90 minutes, you know, typically.
Well, I mean, big bite.
Well, it is a big bite-size.
But 90 minutes because you're trying to go quite deep on this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you know, the guys and ladies who are teaching these courses to go in deep for 5 days, 10 days a month. So 90 minutes is about picking a very specific subject, but going very deep inside that one subject. So rather than being a very broad spectrum, it's about picking something which we think is very relevant. We think people need to understand a little bit more detail and going and diving into that detail for them.
And these are not little tasters so that you can just flog courses on the back of it. You don't say, we're not going to tell you about that important thing, you have to book with us.
I don't think our team who are teaching these courses could be held back in that way, to be honest.
It's true, actually. I've worked with a couple of them, and that is actually true.
They're just passionate about the subject, and we want them to demonstrate that passion. And you know what? Some of these subjects are covered in courses that QA teach. And that, you know, if somebody wants to see more of the same, that's absolutely great, but that's not what it's about. What it's about is actually reaching out and saying, well, as a trusted partner of organisations, as a trusted IT organisation within the landscape, we need to be able to be showcasing what's coming and what's downstream for our customers.
So what were the criteria to put things into Tech Week then? How did you make that decision?
Well, we reached inside the business, as I say. We've got a whole lot of what we call principal technologists and senior learning consultants, and those guys are the most senior techies we've got inside QA. And they've got a whole load of ideas that they could have talked about. So I guess the requirement was two things. One is to talk about something which we think is interesting for the attendees. Now that might not be brand new. There's a couple of subjects here which have been out for a little while, but actually it's about what we think, or what our techies think, organisations could use to make themselves and their organisations more effective. You know, it's no surprise that our company strapline is transforming performance through learning. So what we're really trying to do is impart new skills into our attendees so that they can make better and more educated decisions. So is it new? Great. But is it effective? Does it make your business more effective? Does it make you better professionally? That's what the criteria was. And then you've got a whole world of technology out there to choose from.
Now, and if I'm undecided about one of these courses, what sort of level of knowledge are you assuming from the people who are coming along to these?
On the Tech Week sessions, IT pros. I mean, at the end of the day, it's tech to tech is probably the best description for it. So it's technologists talking to technologists. So I think if you're attending one of the developer sessions, then we expect you to be somebody who writes a bit of code for a living. If you're attending one of the infrastructure sessions, then you're probably a server professional or a networking professional. And I think that's fair to say, the level of knowledge would be in the IT field for which that particular session is most relevant. You don't necessarily need to know a great deal about that subject. So, for example, if we're talking about a Linux platform, you don't necessarily have to be a Linux professional. If we're talking about a developer and it's a .NET session, you don't necessarily have to be a .NET professional, but I think it really does help if you're in that space.
To get the most out of it.
Well, no, we're not talking to lay people necessarily, which QA is entirely capable of doing, but what we're talking about here is reaching out into that technical community and helping out the technical community.
Right, that's good to know, because I always get the impression, I don't know what you think, I always get the impression that there is a lot of quite low quality generic information that's just put out there now, and you're trying to get away from that sort of thing and talk to people who work with these topics, who work on these platforms. They really need to go one step on so they can be useful in their jobs.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, the world of YouTube and various infomercials have been around for a very long time.
Yeah.
And you're right. Sometimes they leave you with more questions than answers. Yeah. And we certainly didn't want that to happen on Tech Week. What we wanted to do is pick a set of subjects and make sure those subjects were explained clearly, concisely, and in the right depth as well. So people will walk away from Tech Week knowing more than when they started, rather than having a whole load of questions.
Now, let's have a look at, for the remainder of this first session, at if you are an IT pro, so for all you guys that have come along and you're looking at this, the sorts of problems that you have at the moment, the sort of challenges that you have at the moment in developing your career and being useful within your organization. Now, you've been around this industry a while.
20 years, yeah.
20 odd years. Now, what you've seen in that is you've seen a lot of change, and a lot of skills that were valuable 20 years ago are now not valuable. Even skills that were around 5 years ago are now not valuable. If you're within an IT organization, you really do have, there's more pressure than ever to get your skills up to date, isn't there?
I think that's right. And I think when it comes to skills in technology, I think we've traditionally seen that as being the realm of certification.
Yeah.
So, you know, I've been through a particular track. I've attended my courses. I've sat my exams.
I've got my polo shirt from it. You know,
I've now got something on my CV that says, you know, Microsoft certified professional, VMware certified, Citrix certified. I'm entirely still relevant when your organisation is heavily invested in a particular product from a vendor. I think it's entirely relevant to continue to invest in that line of technology training. Not least of which is when you get the certification, it proves capability. But what we also know is that the world is changing because we're not locked into a single vendor anymore. Whether that be moving away from a single vendor on the server side, or perhaps more relevant these days, moving away from a single vendor on the client side, it certainly is not a locked-in vendor environment anymore. So having skills across a broad range of platforms, across a broad range of products is absolutely relevant today, which I guess kind of turns the question around and saying, well, can I get certification in every single one of those different product areas? Some of them don't even have certification.
Yeah.
So how do I become an IT pro who is able to develop and prove that development without that kind of badging, if you like? So really, for me, it's about role-based development. So what do I do inside my organisation? As an IT professional today, what am I? Am I a developer? Am I an infrastructure professional? Do I support the website, etc., etc.? So how do I personally perform my duties as an IT professional? And then the second question is, where am I going? How am I developing my skills? What do I want to be? Yeah, of course, that means in the long term for your own personal career development, but also within your organisation. What roles can you develop into within your business? And if you then start to think about what skills you need as a professional in order to become that future version of you, then you can see a very clear path for the skills that you need to develop. Now, within that, of course, we know that there's some emerging technologies. We'll talk about the client side and the proliferation of devices at the client side. We'll talk about the cloud and the choices we have around moving to the cloud. All of those need to be thought about, and that's a completely new skill set. So if you're thinking about moving from being an architect on on-premise technology to an architect in cloud technology, yes, you'll have to go down the line of thinking about which cloud-based technology you need to look at. If you're thinking about supporting devices, yes, you'll need to look at those individual devices. But for me, I think more important than all of that is understanding where you want to move to as an IT professional and make sure that your personal development fits in with that. Usually, and this is the good news, is that your personal development will map to what the organisational requirements will be.
That's what I was going to ask about, because there will always be a slight tension between what you want to do and what the people who you work for want you to do, because there's going to be a certain amount of that, you know, it's why you get paid. Again, it's the boring part of the job. So what you're saying is that you can increase your headroom within the organisation.
I think that's right. You know, for somebody who works with both the IT professionals and also the IT management and the procurement team, and you know, and the HR departments within those organisations, they want to see people develop. The reason why they want to see people develop is that their organisational strategy will be embedded within the IT strategy. And in order to achieve that, they'll need professionals who can step up and take those decisions and implement those strategies effectively, successfully, securely, and all the other things that need to happen. So, from my experience, I don't think organisations want to hold back IT professionals. They're almost giving them the head to be able to go out and develop skills, because they know that those skills will form a tight integration with what the organisational strategy is as well.
Does this change the nature of the training that you deliver now, back from when you started training, when I imagine it was very much more product oriented? Now, does it broaden it? Does it change what you have to teach?
I think it does, absolutely. I mean, when I was teaching courses, I was very much in the Windows Server space. I was in the Microsoft Exchange Server space. Today, I think QA teaches two types of courses. We either teach product-based courses which come from the vendors. So we'll teach a VMware course or a Citrix course or a Cisco course, and that's great because individuals need to learn how to manage and support and troubleshoot and so on, all of those individual products that make up the technology stack. But equally, what people also need to know is how to manage cyber security and information assurance. Now, that's not a vendor product.
Yeah.
Cyber security is probably the broadest subject in IT today, and it's nothing to do with an individual vendor. A vendor might make up a part of your cyber strategy, might be your firewall solution or your antivirus solution, but that's only a small part of what is a broader cyber strategy. Web development is similar. So is business intelligence and big data. You'll have individual products that make up those things, but more often people will be saying, well, actually what I want to look at is my web development strategy, not my .NET strategy, or what is my cyber strategy rather than my firewall strategy. So what we need to do at QA, and what we're doing more and more of, is developing courses which align to the solutions that people are trying to achieve with technology rather than just the products that they're using.
And as an IT pro, that helps you when you're talking back to the business, doesn't it?
As an IT pro, what it also does is it allows you to say, I am going on a course which will help us to develop our cyber strategy. Now, which senior manager, director, or chief executive is not going to say, yes, please, to an IT professional saying, I'm going to make our network more secure? You know, it is, one of the key buzzwords in the industry today is all about cyber. We see that there's news articles and newspaper articles, almost every week, headline news articles about, cyber risk and so on. And I don't think there's going to be a single senior manager within any organisation, public or private sector, who turns around and says, no, I don't want my IT professionals to be more aware of and better capable of managing my cyber risk. It's a given. And if you want to learn about cyber security, you can go on a whole load of individual courses, or you can go on courses that make up a big picture view of cyber and then dive deep into each of those. And we've got a couple of examples of diving a bit deeper. One of many topics around cyber.
Yeah. Now, you have to deal, because you're dealing with the present and the future. Yeah. You're not looking at a bunch of products that have existed for a long time and teaching people how things were 18 months ago. You're very much oriented to what you can experience now and the direction in which that's going. You need help from the vendors for that, though.
Yes, we do, and that's the relationship we have. We have help from the vendors, and we have very strong relationships with vendors, and we're able to plug our technologists into the vendors so that we can speak tech to tech within the vendors as well. Mm-hmm. Some of our principal technologists have very deep and strong relationships with the developers and the support engineers within our vendors, but I think it's more than that as well. When we talk about IT solutions and industry best practice, again, it's looking beyond the vendors in many ways. So QA the challenge we have is that we teach people who are at the cutting edge of technology.
Yeah.
So when we've got customers who are system integrators and IT houses in their own right, they're going to say to us, well, what should we be doing next? And they're at the cutting edge already. So we have to be even further along than that. So we need to keep our eye on the roadmap of products and the roadmap of technology and the roadmap of IT solutions at least 18 months, 2 years ahead. So what's going to happen in 2016? And that might be product releases in 2016, so we need to plug into the alpha and beta development cycle of those products so that we've got a rich experience before they hit the marketplace. Or it might be keeping an eye on the landscape of what's changing in the world of web, what's changing in the world of mobile. And it's great because it really keeps people excited and it keeps people interested. When you're an IT technologist, you want to be at the cutting edge. So, you want to keep yourself sharp. You want to keep your skills developing all the time.
Do you know the secrets that they don't tell us then? Because clearly when most of us go to the vendors and say, what are you doing 18 months, 2 years ahead, they sort of tap aside their nose and say, we love to tell you, but we can't, I'm afraid. Do you have access to that kind of
We do, but obviously, look, we've got a trusting relationship with both sides of the equation. We've got a trusting relationship with our customers, and clearly we've got a trusting relationship with our vendors as well.
You're not going to accidentally let a bit of it.
We're not going to let too much of it go. No, when we're tech to tech, we can start talking about things that are really important and prepare people for things. But we're not going to start giving away industry secrets because that's not the landscape that we want to be in. No, I think we're a very professional organisation.
But the serious thing about this is that the skills that you pick up now have to be skills that are still going to be relevant in next year and the year after that. part of that is because you're learning good practice. You're learning that the broad landscape to do this. The other part of it you're saying is you're learning where the individual products and technologies fit into this and how they're likely to develop.
Exactly, and I think when you're an IT professional, particularly a decision-making IT professional, the first decision you make is what does my strategy look like? So, and we've mentioned cloud and mobile, and I think we'll re-mention cloud and mobile a few times during today's session. But once you've made a decision and said, okay then, the cloud, that's something we need to embrace, we think it's going to provide business advantage to us, so we're going to adopt cloud-based technology strategy. The next question is, okay then, who, how, when? So you've got the first question is yes to the cloud. The second question is, well, which provider? How do I go about doing it? What type of service model do I subscribe to? And we'll certainly talk about those later on. And of course, QA can help with both of those two decisions, because when you're talking about solution-based training, best practice-based training, you can come on a QA course and you can start talking about the advantages of cloud. And then once you've made the decision about, well, okay, I know the advantages of cloud, now I want to start thinking about individual cloud providers, again, you can come on a QA course because we deliver the Microsoft Azure courses, we deliver the Amazon Web Services courses. So that's a great thing. You can start to engage very early in that decision-making life cycle. So I think with QA's level of subject expertise, what we're able to do is be a trusted partner for both the professional and the organisation.
The problem with these sort of things, Jeff, is and the complaint that you regularly hear from people, from IT professionals, is there's just too much vendor-driven hype on these things. It's over-promising, and people all rush to the latest big technology. Do you get that pressure?
Well, we need to back the horses. So obviously, we will have a very clear view of who's starting to win the battle when it comes to technology. Who's winning the battle of the virtualization, who's winning the battle of the mobile clients, who's winning the battle of the cloud service provision. And we need to be, in partnership with each of those to make sure that whatever product or service starts to win that, we are able to provide education, when our customers need it in real time. What we're also able to do is provide very impartial advice as well on what the right product stack might be. I think that even though we are in partnership with some of the major software vendors in the UK and in the world, I think we have a duty to our customers to be honest about what product does for them. And that doesn't mean we're going to be overly enthusiastic about something which we think another vendor or another product stack can do just as well, if not better. And that's the great thing about being a neutral advisor. You're not going to see that kind of very vendor-focused, this is new, so therefore it's great from us. What we will see from QA is, that's great, this is still in development, this can be done another way, maybe 2 or 3 different ways. And I'd say we'll never make decisions for our customers, but we'll certainly give them all of the equipment to make the decisions for them. That means, cross-vendor advice.
Right, which is a good place to wrap up our first half hour on this. So what's going to happen now? Thank you very much for that, Jeff. You'll be needed again in a couple of minutes.
Sure, yes.
We need a lot more from you. So what we're going to do now is we're going to give you the chance to, as I said, make a cup of tea, do whatever you would for just a couple of minutes. And in about 2 or 3 minutes' time, we will be back on, at which point we'll be talking a little bit about the specific technology challenges that IT departments have to face today, and Jeff's insights into that. The insights, really, that QA trainers have learned both from their product knowledge and also from dealing with you all the time. Now, if you have any comments or any questions, please do let us know. But in the meantime, we are going to pass you back to Sam, who's going to hold up the holding card for a couple of minutes while we relax, and we'll see you in 2 or 3 minutes' time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn the camera off for a couple of minutes now, and if you've got any questions, pop them into the chat window. Okay then, I think we are back from our break now, so I'll hand back over to Jeff and Tim.
Thank you very much. Jeff, did you just break your chair?
I just brought my chair, yes.
Oh, it's a good start today. It's a good start to the half hour. Now, in this half hour, we will be talking a little bit about the challenges facing IT professionals, but not in a sort of a generic, oh, I knew that already way. Jeff promised us that he's going to keep this relevant and practical, because this is directly relevant to when we talk about the sessions that they have planned for you on Tech Week, why they are there and what they can tell you to help you with those challenges. Is that right, Jeff?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'll talk about what I think and what I've been speaking with my techies about what challenges our customers are facing, what we think is the most important decisions to be made today in IT. And then what we've also done is map each of those challenges to some of the sessions which are running later on in the week.
Are we allowed to call them techies? Does that not lack respect?
No, I don't think so. They want to be techies.
They're not, and they're not here anyway.
Well, no, I don't.
That's what we like.
Yeah.
No, it's okay, fair enough. Now, you give me a list of these sort of things, and they are the sorts of things that you hear over and over again. But top of that, I can see top of your list, IT adding business value. But I mean, this is the eternal question, isn't it?
It is indeed. And you know, if you go back maybe a decade,
yeah,
IT was all about efficiencies. It was all about enabling businesses rather than driving businesses. It was all about providing the right software, the right mechanisms for people to communicate, the right data, probably not delivered in a very efficient way, not delivered in a very impactful way, but certainly about delivering data into the business. Now, don't get me wrong, IT is still about efficiencies. You know, when you run an IT department inside an organization, one of your key goals and one of your key challenges is to deliver IT solutions that make the business more effective and make it more efficient.
But that sort of takes us red now,
Of course it is. Of course it is. But then again, you can't lose sight of that.
No.
As an IT director or manager, what you don't want to be doing is delivering all the cutting edge stuff, the new stuff, which everybody's excited about, while at the same time losing out on what the key functionality of what that business wants to do internally to make organizations more effective and connected together. And if you make a bad call in that respect, then your internal reputation is going to fall from it. So I think even though business effectiveness and efficiencies, the remit of an IT department for years, it's still there today. But I think it's more than that today. So an IT professional today is not just reacting to a business, not just making a business more efficient, they're actually driving business strategy. And that doesn't mean organizations which are on the web, who transact on the web, for example. It doesn't mean system integrators who develop and deploy technology for customers. That's a given as well. Of course, IT technology-based organizations, where the services and the products are technology, they're always going to be driven by IT strategy. But any business now, any organization is driven by IT strategy. How do I get my products and my services to my customers most effectively, most efficiently? How do I showcase my products and my services most effectively and quickly? And of course now, that's across so many different devices, across a whole plethora of different media types. As an IT professional, you've got to be responsible for delivering the message of marketing and sales and other externally facing parts of the organization. You're responsible for taking that message out. And if you've not got the right platform for it, if you've not got the right tools to do that, then whatever the marketing and sales department want, you can't deliver it, then you're causing a problem.
So how much extra skill do you think in speaking the language of marketing or HR or sales? I mean, anyone who's worked in an IT department knows that what they're asking for might not really be what they want. And the idea to communicate with them on that level is it's important, isn't it?
It is indeed. And I remember very well, actually, and I certainly won't name any names when I say this, but I remember listening to a fascinating conversation between one of our principal technologists, and I'm not naming names, so I'm not giving away any secrets here, one of our principal technologists on one side and one of our sales directors on another side. And they worked for the same company. And they were both speaking the same language, but they were speaking a completely different language. Because one person was speaking about technology, and the other person was speaking about sales and the language of business. And I was listening to that, and I was fascinated, because I knew what each side was trying to say, and I knew they were making extremely valid points, and both of them were right, but they were completely missing each other's point of view. And at the end, I actually stepped into the conversation. I said, look, what this person is trying to say is this, and what this person is trying to say is this. And I think the reason why I was able to do that, and without being big-headed in any way, is look, I've moved from being purely a technology-based person to somebody who is, responsible for running and helping to run the business. So I understood the commercial drivers and the business drivers as well as understanding the technology. And I think in a microcosm, that's exactly where IT is today.
So how deep within IT does that understanding of the commercial drivers have to go? Because you could make a case to say, I'm the techie person within this. I make that work. The commercial drivers, that's above my pay grade.
I think it goes all the way down.
It goes all the way down.
All the way down. Look, if you're a developer developing an external website, an externally facing website, if you don't understand what that website is trying to achieve, how the users are going to interact with that, and how the sales and marketing professionals, for example, are going to use that website to reach those customers, how can you possibly start to develop that website in the right fashion? If you're managing data and your chief executive is going to be making decisions based on the data that you provide, how on earth can you provide that data in the right fashion if you don't understand the business that you're working in? It's everybody. Everybody within the IT department needs to be a business professional and an IT professional, in my opinion.
What happens for people who are stuck in IT departments where they feel that the business isn't helping them to understand? That's not the sort of thing you can provide a training course for easily, is it?
No reason why we can't. We run business courses for IT professionals. We run IT courses for business professionals.
Okay.
So in our leadership management and business skills, for example, we are able to talk about IT strategy within a business environment and business skills to technologists. But I think, that QA can help, but I think that fundamentally seems to me to be a breakdown of communication between departments inside a single organisation. I don't think there's anybody in a learning environment can fix that. That's got to be fixed within the business. If you are disconnected as an IT department from business strategy, how can you do your bit? How can you play your part? And actually, you've got to make your voice heard. You've got to be able to say, look, we need to sit around the same table as those managers, senior managers of different departments, saying, look, what are you trying to achieve? Because without that, you're not going to get anywhere.
Interesting. I was looking up the figures on this, and when I'm not here talking to you, obviously, as you know, I spend my time down at the Register, and the Register surveys its audience a great deal. Freeform Dynamics, our analyst partner, does that, and we regularly ask the IT professionals who read the Register what they think. And it's about a 50-50 split. About half of them say they have a good communication with the business, and about half of them say there is that fundamental disconnect. And 50% is a lot, isn't it?
50% is a lot. I don't know whether you could take that research one step further and say, does the 50% where there is a connection between the IT department and the rest of the business, does the business feel that the IT department is providing them with the best service? Do they think they're reaching their customers, their end users more effectively, more efficiently? My gut feeling is they would say yes to that, because once an IT department is listening to the rest of the business and the business is listening to the IT department, they can start to make decisions together. And when you start to make decisions together, you can start to be really effective in the way you get your messages across to your customers.
Yeah, let's have a look at what influences some of those decisions.
Yes.
Now, you pointed out the proliferation of different types of clients now. We've already mentioned that in the first session, actually, yes.
Yeah, I think that's probably, I would say, if I was to say what the top kind of challenges and decisions that an IT department has to make today, I think the client is probably the big one. We know that people are moving away from being PC-based, laptop-based, and individuals are starting to use their own devices in order to perform work-based duties. So, whether it comes to a tablet, smartphone, or anything in between, the key question is, are you going to allow people to bring their device? Are you going to mandate a set of devices? Or are you going to simply provide to individuals within the organisation, so everybody has to walk around with the smartphone that you provided, and I guarantee the smartphone that they've chosen as well, because they'll want their smartphone as well as your smartphone. So the the device itself, the end user device, is one of the biggest choices you have to make today. Are you going to provide? Are you going to mandate? Or are you going to allow? And what I mean by allow is just say, look, bring your devices and we will build applications and build services that will be supported on those devices.
There are different interpretations of what the IT department should be doing with this, aren't there? I mean, depending on the decision made there, but the level of support and how that is delivered,
yes.
The level of permissiveness, whether the IT department should be involved in some services at all, which are delivered from the cloud direct to those devices, whether the IT department just lets just stands back and says, you get on with it. That's happening as well, isn't it?
That is happening, and you know what? I don't think anybody can stop that from happening. That's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, we do know that when we've got things like web-based email, people are going to start using web-based email across multiple devices. And all of a sudden, you've got business tools which are personal devices. So if you're going to go down that route of having business tools which are personal devices, then let's set some support up for those. Let's put some policy in place. Okay, bring your own device is such a broad topic. I'm not convinced that bring your own device is ever going to be the single choice for an organization, because device is any number of different platforms, any number of different...
it gets written about a lot, doesn't it? But rather more than it's being implemented.
I think so. We ran a mobile developer seminar about 18 months, no, actually about 6 months ago at QA. And I hosted that seminar. I asked for a show of hands and said, how many people here are running a complete open bring your own device policy for your users? One person out of an audience of 80 put up his hand. And I had a chat with him afterwards, and and said, well, how did it go? And he was quite complimentary, but said it was hard work. Most people were still mandating devices being supplied by the organisation. I think a really good place to get to is a set of devices which are supported by the organisation. And what you can probably be there is you can probably be vendor specific. So you might say, okay, then we're going to support Apple devices, or we're going to support Android devices, or actually we're a Microsoft house, so we support Microsoft tablets and Microsoft smartphones. And actually that gives people an element of choice to go for whatever platform they think is right for their role. For example, your chief executive and your board of directors might decide just to go for tablets and smartphones, whereas the rest of the business might decide they want to go for laptops or more advanced devices. But I think if you chose a specific vendor, there are ways of ensuring that those devices are all managed effectively and all managed with a consistent look and feel. One of the things that the deep dive topics we'll go into is how to manage the end user experience across multiple devices.
Exactly what I was just about to say. Some of those developer and security sessions that are coming up in the rest of this week deal with how you do this practically.
We've got one on the user experience across multiple platforms for Windows. We've got one on the user experience across multiple platforms for Apple, for example. And we can do similar things for Android. It just didn't make the cuts for this particular session.
That's quite a big,
but the good news about this is that when you do choose a platform, you are able to then provide a consistent and secure user experience on that platform. And what that provides is the best of both worlds. The element of choice for the end user, but the element of consistency of support, the consistency of deployment, the consistency of security, which absolutely the IT department needs to be able to manage.
Again, I was looking at some research. This is not register research, but I was looking at some research. It showed a lot of IT professionals were skewing towards a sort of a lockdown, a denial of devices, because that's the only way they felt in the short term they could keep control of their data and security around the network. What you're saying is long-term, this isn't really going to work.
Well, what you could do is you could stage it. You could say, right, today we're going to support all users who have got Apple-based devices, because we know we've got enough capability in the business to be able to manage the look and feel and the security of all of the Apple-based devices by using, Apple management techniques. That might be the policy for 12 months, and then you might decide then to open it up to Android-based devices.
I see. So to send out the message if this goes well.
Yeah. So you can do a phased approach, and that, of course, is entirely about your internal user base. There's a different matter altogether when you're talking about your external audience.
Yeah.
Which kind of brings me on to the next point,
Good.
which is about embracing the web.
Yeah.
Because actually you can dictate to some degree, and you can mandate to some degree, what devices your internal user is going to use. but you can't mandate what devices your end users, your customers are going to use. So you absolutely have to support any device that they choose to access your services and your solutions from. And that, of course, first of all, starts with your external web, and then any sites you might be able to provide access to on intranet solutions or portals that you might be able to provide access to for procurement. So you start with, how do I support multiple devices externally? Big question.
Yeah.
And I guess the key question, you've got your three common platforms. You've got your Android and your Apple platforms, and those are two of the big ones. But Microsoft is catching up. Microsoft now, in partnership with people like Nokia, is catching up. So you've got three platforms that you probably need to think about supporting for your external user base. How do you build a solution so that any user of any of those three devices can access your external website and get a look and feel which is identical and a performance which is identical, which leads you on to the first key question, which is, do I go app or do I go web? Now, we know, because we're all using smartphones and tablets to access websites, some organizations decided to go for the app solution. So you download from whichever store is relevant the app for your customer, as a customer of a service, as a website. You download the app, and then you're able to then interact with that business through that app. Or you go for the responsive website, which recognizes the application that you're using and renders your page based on what that device looks like. So you can have a single website solution that renders down to multiple devices effectively. So big decision.
It plugs into a couple of things we talked about. First of all, you need the efficiency because you've got limited resource to deliver all of this.
Yes.
In the first place. You can't, you could probably solve the whole problem and take up the whole of every IT professional within the organization's time 7 days a week for the next 3 years. The second thing is you really got to understand the business. If you're developing an app and you have to focus on a core set of functionality for that app, then you really have to understand what the business users want. External users.
External users as well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And build that functionality in, and then how often do you version that functionality to make sure you're keeping it up to date? How many versions of that particular app do you use? And I think, my gut feeling on this is as people start to embrace the next generation of web technologies, I think we'll start to see more people start to move to responsive websites away from developing specific applications for different platforms. That's my gut feeling on this.
And again, something that you directly have, I know you directly have a session on.
We have a specific session on developing responsive websites for mobile applications, and I'll tell you what, that will be one of the most fascinating sessions in Tech Week.
Yeah. Now, let's talk cloud next.
Yeah.
We can't have a conversation like this without mentioning cloud.
No, and it's the same as the mobile end. So for me, when people talk about cloud, mobile parts is a big part in this. You talk about end-to-end experiences for people. So when you've got decisions to be made on the client side, equally you've got decisions to be made on the cloud side. We've had virtualization around as a technology for quite a few years now, and people have been creating data warehouses and server farms and really consolidating lots of different servers into single platform and using virtualization technology to do that effectively, reduces the cost of ownership, really does consolidate down to a single set of servers that you can manage effectively. That's been around. Now the big decision is, do you actually now start to procure that outside of the organization? So rather than managing your own virtualization farm, where you buy the hardware, you buy the infrastructure, and you buy the platform, and then you install, configure, support, and manage, do you instead subscribe to the cloud-based services? So in the same way as the client-side decision is big, the cloud decision is big. Because again, you've got 2 or 3 key decision points. First decision point is, do you even want to embrace the cloud? Some people have still got that kind of big question mark over the security, and will say, no, I'm not going to do it until security is proven X, Y, or Z.
Well, the last 6-9 months of news has delayed a lot of decisions on that.
Absolutely. And then when you've said, yes, well, I think the cloud is right for me, you then have to say, well, how much of my on-premise are you going to be moving off-premise? So is it going to be a big bang, or are you going to be moving applications and data piecemeal and shifted over to the cloud? And then, of course, 2 more decisions. One is, what type of service provision do you subscribe to in the cloud? We all know that application as a service, platform as a service, and infrastructure as a service. Each of those gives you advantages and disadvantages. The application as a service makes it easy for your end users to get a consistent experience, but locks you into a single provider of an application. Platform as a service is kind of losing out to infrastructure as a service, because I think it gives you, infrastructure gives you more flexibility to build your own environment and manage it as you would yourself without the hardware investment. So with infrastructure as a service kind of winning the war at the moment around the different service provisions, the next question is which cloud-based service provider you do actually go for. And all of them, of course, are going to have all of the USPs on the website about what their functionality is, what their security is, what their load balancing is, what their fault tolerance is, and all these different things. Massive number of decision points you have to take in cloud. So you need people with the right knowledge to be able to make those effective decisions.
And you also need to be able to cut through, don't you? As you say, there are a lot of promises, a lot of which will be irrelevant, and some which might not be, might not make much difference which vendor you go for, but some will make a huge difference, and you have to be able to have the knowledge to know what to look for when you're making a decision.
And what you also know is that this is one of the biggest strategic shifts that your organisation will ever make when it comes to technology. It also means you're going to have to get the buy-in of every single senior person within that business. And that means your IT professional who is recommending the cloud-based strategy has to put forward a proposal which is commercial and business.
Don't get it wrong.
And that goes back to the first point, which is IT professionals have to be commercial and business orientated.
Yeah.
Because actually, if you can't convince the board to make that decision, you're never going to do it.
Now, the other thing that we can't have one of these conversations without security.
Security. Well, again, cyber security, information assurance is all over the newspapers, all over the web, and so on. Security has never been off topic. It's just more on topic than it's ever been before. But then again, with an extended network, it's going to be more of a decision point than ever before. When you're talking about perimeter networks as being, the network with the edge of your security, that's gone now. At one end, you've got devices. So the edge of your security at the client side could be any device that anybody is holding in their hand. And on the other side, you've got cloud, which means the cloud service provider is hosting that infrastructure in multiple sites around the world. So your perimeter is not now the network. Your perimeter is the user at one end and the application of the data at the other end. And those things are so far apart that you've got to think about security as an end-to-end solution.
Still, again, when you look at research, a lot of IT departments are still basing their fundamental security on that perimeter, trying to keep that perimeter. What you're saying is that that's yesterday's problem to solve.
I think the problem with that is that when you start to think about the perimeter as being what you manage, your end users and your cloud service provider, what you're doing is you're trusting them. And great, they will have, the cloud service providers will clearly have a focus on security. Your end users who are using multiple devices, they might not have as much of a focus on security. So a bit of it is education, but it's also about thinking, I've got to extend my security solution away from my perimeter edge out into the user base.
And designing security so it is transparent enough and it is easy enough to use, so you're going to get compliant behavior.
Absolutely, and behavior is an important word here. And, when people talk about security, they're always thinking about software. They're always thinking about software and hardware. Security these days is just as much about behavior and it's about people than it is about software. You can put as many layers of software as you want on top of a security platform, but if people are doing the wrong thing, opening up attachments, downloading content to their devices, then your security is going to be compromised. So it's all about managing the behavior of your community as well as implementing the software solutions.
Not least because, next topic, a lot of data.
A lot of data.
A lot of data. Do we like to call it big data, or does that make you flinch?
Well, no, I think big data is, a buzzword which is, big data today is where cloud was 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Which is, people were talking about cloud, but there wasn't really, yes, you could do it, but there wasn't an easy way to do it. Yeah. Now there are so many easy ways to get access to cloud-based services and migrate your solution from on-premise to off-premise. So cloud started being buzzy a couple of years ago, and now is real and is today is a key part of IT strategy. I think big data is where cloud was a few years ago, which is people know that all of these data points exist. They know they can do something with it, but there isn't enough experience and there isn't enough skills in the industry today to make key decisions around data.
See, this strikes me as one of those areas where the business and the IT department can sometimes be a long way apart because people think, well, more data must mean better decisions.
Yes, more data doesn't necessarily mean more information upon which to make decisions. And and big data is all about understanding people, and again, understanding behaviour. So what do the people who come to my website, what do they do? How do they navigate? How do they manage their, how do they run their experience? And whether that be as a service provider or whether it be just as a showcase of products and services. Again, if the business doesn't say to the IT department, this is what we need to understand, how can the IT department facilitate that? And vice versa, if the IT department doesn't say, this is what we can do for you, then you're not going to be able to do it in the other direction either. So again, a common understanding between the IT department and the end user focused departments within the business needs to be taken in order for big data or any kind of data to be managed effectively.
You see, now I remember, and you remember this as well, if you go back a few years to when this whole sort of thing kicked off in IT terms, when people first started talking excitedly about data warehouses and stuff like that, there was this sort of race to see who could put the most data into one place at one time, and some retailer would report, oh, we've got this many terabytes, numbers that would seem quite small to any of us now, but it seemed enormous at the time. And yet what followed on from that wasn't that they were getting some business advantage from it, but they spent a lot of money on the service.
Absolutely. And so storing and managing data doesn't do you any good whatsoever until you turn that data into business intelligence. And business intelligence is about taking data and turning it into information from which you can make decisions. And it doesn't matter how big your data set, if you haven't got some intelligent information that comes out of that, which decision makers can look at and get a very clear view of what is happening so they can make decisions based on that data set, then there's no point having the data. And big data is exactly the same. Big data just means more. Big data means that business intelligence is going to be even more important than it is today.
I noticed we've got a sort of low-tech business intelligence session.
Well, we've got two actually. We've got a high-tech and a low-tech. We've got a business intelligence session, which is about pushing business intelligent information down to the mobile device so that the decision maker can take advantage of that. That's going to be a great session. But also, what is the most commonly used business intelligence tool in the world? Microsoft Excel. People don't tend to use that tool as well as they should do. And having a good skill set in a decision-making tool is quite critical for any manager. So we're running a session on data analytics within Microsoft Excel. And the reason for that is so that we can actually show people what they're missing out on.
What it's already got.
What it's already got. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So our team around the business applications, which is our team who teach business users how to use IT, they're adamant that people can get better business decision making more quickly by using Excel data analytics. So they put their hand up and said, look, let's get on Tech Week and showcase this.
Let's see what they do. The moral of the story, basically, is you don't always need more data.
You need better information.
Better information.
You need better information in which to make intelligent decisions.
So wrapping this all up, the final topic. If you manage to cope with the first six, then the seventh one should be no problem.
Well, I think the seventh one is kind of wrapping all that into a single story, which is, look, we've spoken about the cloud, we've spoken about the clients, we've spoken about securing the network, we've spoken about data management. The next key question is, are you capable of doing that yourself? As an organisation, do you have the skills, the scale, and the capability to do this for yourself, for your organisation? So, how much of this do you implement? How much of it do you outsource? And how much of it is a combination of both? Do you bring in capability, or individuals or organizations to support you on your data strategy and your cyber strategy, or do you develop the skills yourself to be able to implement your data and cyber strategy? So the big question for IT departments is, how much do I do myself? How much do I outsource? And if I do outsource, am I outsourcing to skills individually or organizationally? And then that turns the IT professional, once again, from being a provider of IT to a procurer of IT. So as soon as you become into the procurement side, you then need to understand the language of contracts and service level agreements from a procurement perspective to make sure that whoever you're sourcing from, you're getting best value and you're getting a consistent level of experience and service. So all of these decisions, once they're made, need to be implemented by somebody. Is it internal, is it external, or is it a combination of both? Exciting time to be an IT professional, but there's a lot of challenges.
Yeah, I don't think that the work's going to... I don't think you're going to run out of things to train in the near future.
I don't think so. No.
That's clearly the evidence. Well, we'll be in the last third of our presentation this morning. We're going to be looking at how your sessions map.
Yeah, let's go through the sessions. Absolutely. Let's step through each of the sessions, give a quick overview of what they look like, who's delivering the session, what the key messages are going to be, and how they map into those challenges that we all know the IT departments are facing.
Okay, so we're going to take another little break now. Again, if you've got any questions or anything that we've not made clear, let us know, because there's no point in you sitting there frustrated if we haven't said something, when you can just type it in there and we'll answer it for you. We'll be back in a couple of minutes. Sam's going to hold up the card now for a little while, and we're going to pass you back to her. When we're back, we'll be talking about the sessions and what you can expect from the rest of Tech Week. So for 2-3 minutes?
3 minutes?
We'll take 3 minutes. And we'll be back in 3 minutes, Jeff and me, for the rest of Tech Week.
Okay, thanks, guys. See you in a few.
And that was, yeah. So thank you. Welcome back, guys. Now, I've just been looking at the list of sessions that we've got. We're going to have to fly through these.
We are, yes.
Yeah, but you know what they're like. Now, so one other thing I do have to mention is we're really interested in what you think of the sessions, because there'll be more Tech Weeks.
I hope there will be more Tech Weeks, yes.
Hopefully there'll be more Tech Weeks, and the more you tell us about what you're getting out of it, the better it is for everybody involved. There will be, from tomorrow, techweek@qa.com, I don't have to spell that out for you, it's as you imagine it is, will be the place that you can drop us a line, make a note of that, and please do tell the guys at QA what you think of the sessions, what you've enjoyed, what you would like to see more of, and they'll do it for you. You're a responsible.
Oh, of course, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay then, Jeff. Now you have to remember what's in each of the sessions.
I do indeed.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do we do? So what have we got? So first of all, go responsive with foundation.
Yes.
It's like a quiz.
Oh, no, absolutely. So yeah, we'll spend a bit of time kind of going through each session.
Yeah.
Very high level. We've only got a few, relatively few minutes. So first of all, David Walker, who's our principal technologist for web and mobile, is going to talk about foundation. Now, foundation is, we spoke earlier on about making a decision between app and web, and whether we wanted to create a responsive website or go down the app route for each device. Well, if you want to go down the responsive website, then foundation is one of the key parts of that decision. Responsive websites allow you to render information for every client, allows you to load information on a client-specific basis. It allows you to create a website which has got all the speed and functionality of an app on the local device. What enables that is technologies such as CSS3 and Foundation. So David Walker, who's absolutely the front of all of this, is going to talk to us about how Foundation helps you to develop a responsive website. It's got to be at the forefront of your web strategy.
Building in that back end.
Building in the server technology that supports multiple devices and multiple client applications.
Okay.
Such a good session.
Tick for that then. Okay. One optimization, CloudBridge 7.
CloudBridge 7, yes. So Rob Linko is our principal technologist for Citrix, and he works very closely with the Citrix team. And he's chosen WAN optimization using CloudBridge 7 because, as we spoke about earlier on, if you decide to go for your private or hybrid cloud solution, you've got to take advantage of your internal infrastructure. And you've got to make sure your internal infrastructure is efficient. So what CloudBridge allows you to do is make data exchange more efficient by compressing data over the WAN. Some remarkable numbers. You can compress application data by up to 95% by using CloudBridge. So it means you can start to use video, and you can start to use graphics across WAN links that you wouldn't have used graphics and audio and video before because you simply didn't have the bandwidth. So CloudBridge enables a cloud-based solution within your organization to spread across multiple geographies.
Okay.
It's got to be an advantage.
If you're having that conversation with the business where you're talking about providing service levels, then...
Absolutely. And your end user experience has got to be first class.
Okay, extended Hyper-V replication.
Yes, Paul Gregory, who's our principal technologist.
I know Paul.
You do know Paul.
I've worked with him in the past.
Yeah, absolutely. So Paul is delivering 2 sessions at Tech Week, and Paul has been a real driver behind the development of Tech Week. It was his brainchild in the first place, and he's a real advocate of getting new technology out into the world and into the audience at QA. So he's come up with 2 sessions. He could probably have come up with 10, but the first one he's talking about is Hyper-V extended replication. So anybody who's worked with Hyper-V already will know that you can create data replicas, and those data replicas allow you to have fault tolerance and allow you to access local copies of data. what Hyper-V does with Windows Server 2012 Release 2 is it allows you to create a third or extended replica of your data set, and that way you can create something off-site in a different geography to provide even more levels of fault tolerance for your data that's supported by Hyper-V. Paul's going to show you how to configure an extended replica set in Hyper-V.
And if anyone can do that in 90 minutes, Paul can.
I think Paul can, absolutely.
In fact, yes, he'll take the cork out of his mouth, he'll go. 90 minutes later, he'll know all the things you need to do to go back in again.
You know, and it goes back to a point earlier on, which is actually these sessions are not about, you know, giving you a taster of
you get the whole thing, right?
You will know at the end of that session how to create Hyper-V extended replicas, which is what we want Tech Week to be about.
Yeah, okay, that's useful. Now, another one is practically your OSX server, an MDM solution.
Absolutely, and in fact, we've got a couple of sessions here, and I'll point out the Managing User Experience with UEV2, User Experience version 2 with Microsoft,
yes.
and the session...
So it's one Apple, one Microsoft.
One Apple, one Microsoft. We spoke earlier on about device choices. Now, of course, when you've gone for a device choice, you then have to provide a consistent experience across all of those devices. So if you're running a shop which has got Apple as the client of choice, then you need to make sure that your users have got a consistent experience, whether they're using different flavors of the Apple OS, or whether they're using the iPhone, or whether they're using the tablet devices. And if you've got a Windows shop, then you need to make sure people get consistent experiences, whether they're using Windows 7 or Windows 8. So we've already spoken about the fact that you want to give people choice of platform. What you now need to do is enable that choice and make it effective. So two sessions we've got here. One is on OX Server, which is of course the Apple server environment, as a mobile device management platform with the framework for MDM built into the iOS, and managing user experience in Windows by using UE version 2 allows enterprise scale user state virtualization and user state consistency of experience. So you've got one on Microsoft, one on Apple, how to manage a consistent user environment across multiple devices.
Again, what we were talking about right at the beginning is, for your own career now, you cannot just be an Apple person,
absolutely,
or just a Microsoft person.
Absolutely. And I don't, So if you want to be multi-efficient, you attend both of those sessions, and you can talk to your customers about both Apple and Microsoft end-user environments. Okay.
Now, business intelligence, as we were talking about recently in the past, mobile business intelligence.
Yeah, I'm hard pressed to say which is the most exciting session.
You're keen on this one.
I'm really keen on this one. So Mark Fitzgerald, who's our business intelligence principal technologist, is delivering a session on how to deliver business intelligence to mobile devices. Now, we've already spoken about this. We spoke about big data, we spoke about data warehousing, and how data in and of itself is not enough. You need to turn data into information, and that information needs to be then turned into decision-making data for business decision makers within the organization. More and more business decision makers are starting to use tablet and smartphone devices. So they want to see decision making data on their device in real time, with slicing through all the big data into the appropriate succinct information. Matt Fitzgerald is going to talk about how to deliver all that data as meaningful business intelligence down to mobile devices. I can't wait for that.
It's not going to be waffly, is it? Because sometimes these BI things are, you've got to make better decisions.
Absolutely, but no, this is about making it happen.
Yeah.
About making it happen.
Good, and talking about making it happen, then this one, the one that I quite like on this one is the data analysis of Microsoft Excel.
Exactly. We said earlier on that actually you can run all the big data and data analytical tools and all the business intelligence platforms in the world, but most of the decisions inside businesses today are made by using Microsoft Excel. And Microsoft Excel 2013 has got more analytical tools than any version before. And you're able to take significant amounts of data, remember millions of rows of data inside Excel, and turn it into intelligent and sensible decision-making data so quickly by using Excel 2013 data analytics. You can chart it, and you can create, what are they called, the little charts inside Excel, they're called spark lines. I don't know if you've seen them.
Oh, they are terrific, yes.
The cell,
they look like a sizable word, aren't
exactly.
they? And there's little up and down. But if you don't know about Spark, look it up, but not until we finish.
And what you need as a business decision maker, and I guess I class myself now as a business decision maker, is I need to know from all of this large amount of data, what is moving, what trends are happening, and how can I change something to positively impact that trend. That's what I'm interested in. And if I can take all of that data and bring it down to a very clear point that says, this is happening, if I did this action, how can I model that out? And that's exactly what Excel 2013 Analytics gives you, in a tool which I use almost every day.
There's a lot of people complain, though. There's a lot of bad Excel out there.
A bad Excel,
yeah.
as in skills?
A lot of bad Excel skills from people who are creating the worksheets within Excel.
Well, exactly. Yeah. And I think Excel is one of those tools where if you start with bad habits, you continue those bad habits. I find it fascinating when people come on QA courses and they feel that they can skip the early stages of Excel and go straight to the advanced courses because they've been using Excel for years. It doesn't matter how long you've been using Excel, it's what you do with Excel that matters. And actually, when people come on the level 1 and level 2 courses, they learn so much and go away and make themselves more efficient. And if they make themselves more efficient, by definition, they're making their businesses more efficient.
I'm going to run a course called Bad Excel My Way. Now, VMware PowerCLI, what's this?
PowerCLI is VMware's version of PowerShell. PowerShell, I'm a Windows Server professional myself. I've taught Windows Server various versions and Microsoft Exchange Server, and every time I was doing something in Microsoft Server and Exchange Server, I was always in the GUI. I was an administrator who sat in the administrative tools, and I was configuring user environments, I was configuring services, I was configuring Exchange settings. It was always in the GUI. And it was only in the latest releases of Windows Server that we started to go back to having a thorough and proper scripting and command-based environment with PowerShell. PowerShell is fundamentally changing the way that administrators manage Windows environments because it's all scripted, it's all run within a shell. VMware have got PowerCLI, which is the VMware add-on to PowerShell, which allows you to run scripts and manage your vSpheres and your vCloud environments on top of VMware platform by using an equivalent of PowerShell.
There's literally hundreds of thousands of IT pros out there who could use that.
Absolutely. And you know what? If you're still doing things the old-fashioned way, and it's strange to talk about scripting and command line interfaces as being the new way of doing things, because of course IT is all about going full. It's all about going full circle. But now, of course, it's a powerful scripting environment. And because PowerShell has taken the world by storm, I expect PowerCLI to do the same thing for VMware.
Good. Oh, now next one. Why IP4 just has to go?
I know. Well, IP version 6 has been around for a little while now. It's certainly not been adopted as widely as people had expected it to.
It was meant to be a big revolution.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of course, with things like network address translation and proxy servers and so on, IP version 6, as simply as an address range, has not really been required. You know, if it wasn't for proxy services and network address translation, IP version 4 would have had its day many years ago, because we've run out of the IP.
That was always the justification for it, wasn't that was the big story.
But now you can have your external site, you know, even if you've got a fault tolerant solution, you can have all of your external site hosted on a single IP address if you wanted to, or go for a very small range of IP addresses. So it isn't about scalability in that sense, about IP address schemes.
So what is it?
It's about functionality. IP version 6 has got so much more functionality than IP version 4, including payload management, efficiency of routing hierarchies, and of course it also fixes some of the holes you see in IP version 4 from a security perspective.
So it might be one of these things that people have put off for a little while. So
well, it could well be, but now is the time to do it. So John Cannings, who is our senior learning consultant around voice and data communications, I would consider a champion of IP version 6. And I think after that session, a lot of networking professionals watching that session are going to want to talk to people about implementing IP6.
Okay, well, yes, let us know if you are if it changes your mind on these things. Now, application lifecycle management using Visual Studio Team Foundation Server. Okay, now this is quite a heavy one, isn't it?
Visual Studio Team Foundation Server, absolutely, and Visual Studio Team System. So this is the set of tools that Microsoft offer to developers who Visual Studio, of course, is the environment that the developers work in to code in .NET individually. Visual Studio Team System and Team Foundation Server is how developers share code. So it's all about developing code as a group, as a team, making sure that you build code together, making sure you test it, making sure you version test it, making sure you unit test it. And you know what it enables? It enables agile software development in a Microsoft platform.
Loads of people's ears just pricked up there.
Agile is huge. You know, we know today that the most efficient organisations developing code, whether they be internally or externally facing, are starting to look towards agile development techniques.
Agile's huge, isn't it? But a lot of people just don't know where to start, or how to work it. Yeah.
You need two things with agile. You need somebody who understands how an agile project, whether that be a development project or another project, works, but you also need a tool set that enables an agile environment. Agile is about sharing. Agile is about working together. So if you don't have a tool set that allows you to do that, then you know, you're not going to be able to facilitate that environment. And from a code development perspective, Microsoft allow agile development by using Team Foundation Server. Microsoft have been developing software using agile techniques by another name for many years. Microsoft themselves use Microsoft Solutions Framework, which is daily builds of code as they're developing their products. So they've been using agile techniques. So this is about turning it out into the customer base and saying, you use the same techniques that we've been using to successfully develop software for many years.
Adrian Jakeman.
Adrian Jakeman is our head of IT. So not only is he a world-class trainer on Visual Studio Team System and Team Foundation Server, he's also the head of our IT function. So he's a very talented guy, and anybody attending that session will be listening to, you know, without sounding too dramatic about it, one of the few people in the world who can deliver that session.
So no pressure, Adrian. Red Hat Linux 7.
Yeah, Red Hat Linux 7. So Linux 7 is I think it's still in preview. Might be hitting the floors of people's networks soon.
But a good time to catch up.
Absolutely. So Alina Slytoska, who's our principal technologist for both Unix and Linux platforms, is going to be giving us a preview of Linux Enterprise Edition 7, including things like integration with VMware, so virtualization, and how Linux Red Hat 7 can be used on a VMware environment. Going to be talking about how the new cryptography and security solutions in Red Hat are starting to meet all of the UK and US government standards, and also the fact that we've got a Java framework built into Red Hat so you can start to develop your own applications.
I'm going to have to keep moving you through these.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so what are you going to tell us about SharePoint 2013?
Well, SharePoint 2013, I'll tell you what, if there's one product which is flying off the shelves at QA, it's SharePoint.
Really?
Everybody wants to know about SharePoint. Really? It's changing businesses. It's changing the way that departments work inside organisations. And if SharePoint is going to be deployed, it needs to be deployed across businesses, not in individual departments. It needs to be across businesses because it changes the way that users behave.
Yeah, deploy it with commitment.
Absolutely. And you need to teach people how to use SharePoint effectively. That's the end users, so they can share information effectively, but it's also people who need to develop the business solutions within SharePoint so that people can start to progress through workflow and business process. So what we're going to be looking at with SharePoint 2013 is how to create workflow inside SharePoint to make businesses more efficient.
.NET Async?
.NET Async programming. Paul Besley, who is our principal technologist in .NET programming, telling me only a couple of days ago that anybody writing code for a single processor these days is really not going to take advantage of what is out there in product. Mm-hmm. You can buy any laptop today pretty much and it will always come with either dual or quad processor. Never, forget about the PC side, forget about the server side. These days laptops are dual core and beyond, and I think, you know, within a couple of years time I think you can buy a device without being dual core at least. Mm-hmm. So what async programming allows you to do is take advantage of multiple cores within your application so that you can be more efficient, you can be quicker, and you can allow graphical interfaces to work more effectively. So if you don't know what to do around multiple core development using async in .NET, Paul Besley will give you a step up for that.
There's quite a few ticks so far for quite a few people, I think. Oh, okay, Amazon Web Services.
Yeah.
Well, there's a big one, you know.
Deal
with the small stuff thing.
I know, this is probably the other big one, I guess. You know,
yeah.
I'm not going to be choosing my favourite topic at Tech Week because there's so many. But I think Amazon Web Services is going to pick up a few ears. We've already spoken about the cloud as being huge. People are now migrating their services to the cloud, migrating the software and the data to the cloud. They're making decisions and they're now having to look at which provider is going to give them the best quality of service, the best scalability, the best fault tolerance. One of the providers out there, which is certainly doing a very good job of winning the war around infrastructure as a service, is Amazon Web Services. Amazon Web Services is a new partner for QA, and we're excited to have them on board. And Phil Sturpey, who's our PT around cloud and development, is going to talk about Amazon Web Services, what the decision points are, what architecture needs to be decided upon when migrated to Amazon Web Services, and what do AWS provide to you as a business in order for you to make that cloud migration easy.
Make proper detail, understand what you're getting into.
So we're not talking about the cloud conceptually, we're talking about the cloud in reality.
The decision that you're actually making. Good. They are the gorilla in the market, aren't they?
Oh, they're absolutely huge, yeah.
Yeah, so the changing face of malware,
yeah.
the topics are getting, they seem to be getting bigger as we go.
I know.
Okay, changing face of malware.
Yes, well, security, we're talking about it, cyber security. One of the biggest parts of any cyber security policy is to manage and mitigate malware. Malware is horrible code which is being written by the bad guys out there in order to do some damage on your machine. And no matter how many times we update our software, the bad guys seem to do something more effective to make malware more efficient. The good news is that we've got somebody like Darryl McGregor, who's been working on mitigating malware for many years and knows as much about that subject as anybody that I can think of, and he will be talking about what the latest threats are out there with malware and what the best ways to mitigate and manage that threat is.
Right. Microsoft BizTalk Server.
Yeah.
Now here's the thing that you always see exists but never see much about.
Well, when we were speaking earlier on today, we said, is Tech Week all about new things? Well, I think we've seen that a lot of it is about new things.
This isn't new.
No, it's not very new. And what it is, it's about our team, and in particular in this session, Matt Bishop, who's our principal technologist again in mobile, cloud and .NET. He is adamant that businesses are not taking advantage of BizTalk Server. He thinks that businesses that want to integrate enterprise applications, particularly those which are running on the Microsoft platform, they don't have to be, because BizTalk Server supports web objects, it supports SOAP as a protocol across multiple product lines. He is adamant that businesses can make their applications more effective by implementing BizTalk. And what he wanted to do with Tech Week was become an evangelist for BizTalk, which is great. He's not a Microsoft employee, so he's telling me that he wants to talk about BizTalk because he thinks the customers can get more from BizTalk than they are doing today.
Great. Okay. Well, there's, again, one of those Cinderella technologies, and see if we can get it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Now, classic GUI design patterns.
Yes, Paul Besley, second session from Paul Besley. Remember he was talking about the async programming earlier. What he's also going to talk about is using GUI design patterns, and in particular around the next generation of Microsoft development techniques, which include things like MVC, MVP, and MVVM. So design patterns have been around for a long time, but they can still be used in this next generation of .NET development techniques. So Paul's going to be talking about the best way in which you can integrate classic GUI design patterns into next generation development.
And finally, also coming back for a second session.
For a second session, on popular demand, Paul Gregory. So he delivered a session earlier on, or will be delivering a session on Hyper-V replication. He's also going to talk about what I think is Paul's favourite subject in a moment, which is Microsoft System Center Orchestrator. Orchestrator is the best kept secret in IT, according to Paul Gregory. What it allows you to do is create drag and drop workflow and turn that workflow into script, and turn that script into effective ways of managing your internal infrastructure and even provisioning virtual machines in cloud and virtualization-based environments. Paul tells me that businesses could be so much more efficient. IT departments could be so much more efficient by using Orchestrator. And if Paul tells me, I believe him.
We believe him, but the research I've seen on this is very underused.
Very underused, absolutely.
Very underused technology at the moment. So this is really one for the future if you're planning what you're going to be doing with the data.
Absolutely. And what we want to do with this is we want to showcase what it can do, and then you can make that decision for yourself.
Okay, that's it. Well, is that all?
That's all. So we've got a lot of good sessions coming up in Tech Week, haven't we? Yeah.
That's great. Well, we've run over, but we needed to get all that in. It was hard to get it all in time, so great effort. Jeff, thank you very much. So all that remains for me is to say to everyone, if you see some sessions there and you thought, I really need to sign up for that one, I didn't notice that one before, go ahead and do it now. Make your plan, because they'll be worth it. When do you get this sort of? You don't find this sort of stuff just lying around.
Not very often, no.
Not very often, no. So Jeff, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For taking the time, the guys this morning, and good luck with Tech Week. And maybe we will meet again for Tech Week 2.
Well, I certainly hope so. I really want Tech Week to be a huge success. We've certainly got the people and the sessions to provide a fantastic insight into today's IT world. So I hope everybody enjoys it. And as you say, let's have version 2 if it's a success.
Yeah, if you enjoy it or don't enjoy it, again, remember, from tomorrow, let us know at techweek@qa.com. So all that remains is for me, Tim Phillips, to say goodbye, and for Jeff to say goodbye as well.
Bye, everyone.